Hello, this video presentation is on solving equations with the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula comes from the standard form of a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant. Or a is the coefficient of the quadratic term, b the coefficient of the linear term. All right, let's begin solving this now. And we're going to use completing the square. First thing in completing the square, we divide by the leading coefficient and the constant gets put on the other side. So I'm going to subtract c, and the order of these two things does not matter. And I end up with, ooh, that was ugly. Try that again. End up with ax squared plus bx equals negative c. Divide by a. Divide by a. Every term gets divided by a. These cancel, and we end up with x squared plus b over a x equals negative, having a rough time here, equals negative c over a. And again, as always, we're going to add something to each side. Now, in our last video, we dealt with fractions. We have to take half of this number right here, and we got that number when it was a fraction by multiplying by 1/2. Gives me b over, I'm thinking 2, and I wrote the 2 up there, b over 2a. We then squared that number. b over 2a squared is b squared, b times b. 2 times 2 is 4, and a times a squared. We then write that over here, plus b squared over 4a squared plus b squared over 4a squared. I'm going to move this stuff out of our way. Not going to get rid of it, just move it. All right. Now, we factor this side, and just like before, the number that goes here is the number we multiplied together to get b squared over 4a squared, which is just this, b over 2a, equals, and I'm going to switch the order. Oftentimes, when we have a negative number plus something, we switch the order, so we have this first, b squared over 4a squared minus c over a. Now, before we take the square root, I need a common denominator. I have a 4 here, I don't here. So I'm going to multiply down here by 4, up here by 4. I have an a squared, I only have an a, so I'm going to multiply by 4a. That gives me x plus b over 2a squared equals b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. We have a common denominator. We just combine the numerators. Believe it or not, we're almost done. We then take the square root of both sides. with our plus minus, of course. This gives us x plus b over 2a equals plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over square root of 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a. Oh boy, we're almost done. Subtract this over here from both sides. Minus b over 2a minus b over 2a. And we're left with x equals the opposite of b. Now notice here, I have common denominators. So we're left with opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is the quadratic formula. You need to memorize it immediately, if not sooner. What I would do is every time you do a problem until it's tattooed to your brain, I would write it down at the beginning of every problem. The quadratic formula, for a lot of people, is the easiest way to do it. Me, I prefer factoring. So let's look at two quick examples, and then you can try some on your own. Okay, our first equation is 2x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals negative x plus 1. With the quadratic formula, set equal to 0. That's it. Then you just plug it into the formula. So I'm going to add x to both sides. And I'm going to subtract 1. And I end up with 2x squared minus 2x minus 5 equals 0. Now, a is 2, b is negative 2, pay attention to the signs, and c is negative 5. I plug it into my formula. X equals the opposite of negative 2. Opposite of negative 2 plus or minus b squared negative 2 in parentheses squared, because when you square a number it becomes a positive. It has to be in parentheses, minus 4 times 2 times negative 5 all over 2 times a, which is 2. Plugged it into the formula, and we get 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, minus negative 40 all over 4, or 2 plus or minus the square root of 44 over 4. Now, the square root of 44 can be broken up into 4 and 11. Square root of 4, square root of 11, all over 4, or 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 11 over 4. Lastly, we need to simplify this. If we can divide every number, this 2, and this 4, not the radical, by some number, then do so. We can divide by 2, and this ends up being 1 plus or minus the square root of 11 over 2. That is our answer. Now I want to do one more example, but I want you to try it on your own. All right, here is our equation. Pause it and try to do it yourself. I hope you paused it and tried it. First thing, we add 2x. 2x and 2x to both sides. And we end up with 3x squared plus 2x minus 2 equals 0. A is 3, B is 2, C is negative 2. You don't have to write this down. The equation, remember, x is equal to opposite of b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, opposite of b, negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 2 squared. I didn't use parentheses because it's positive, minus 4 times 3 times negative 2, all over 2a, 2 times 3. Negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. And this is going to be a minus. If you look right here, minus a minus, it's going to end up being positive. So it's 4 plus 24 over 6, or negative 2 plus or minus square root of 28 over 6, or negative 2 plus or minus 28, remember, square root of 4, square root of 7, 2 square root of 7, all over 6. And since I can divide 2, 2, and 6 by 2, my final answer, negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 7 all over 3. All right, that's it. It's very easy to use this formula. Please memorize how we came up with it. It will be a question on the test. All right, have a great day. Sorry this was kind of long, but the formula is very important and quite easy to use.